Right. Well, last time we spoke, we also addressed this issue of Christian nationalism within the military and how there's proselytizing in the military that's actually illegal and the effects of that. So we'll probably get into that throughout the interview. But I did want to ask you about Project 2025. This is an agenda which was put forward by the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank established in 1973. They've been instrumental in shaping Republican policy over the decades, and they've been advancing a very right-wing agenda, which emphasizes free enterprise, limited government, but also a lot of other really controversial things, such as not supporting reproductive rights or abortion, and also wanting to essentially change the nature of the U.S. government and the way the U.S. government functions. So why don't you explain to us what Project 2025 is and what the implications would be for the U.S. military as well?
I spent over 3 years in the West Wing working in and there of the Reagan administration. The Heritage Foundation started this whole thing back in 1973, and the first presidential administration to start implementing their views of this Christian nationalism was unfortunately the Reagan administration. I was there, I can see it. About 2,000 different proposals coming from the Reagan administration were tied to the Heritage Foundation. And I guess the best way to describe it in a brief interview here that we're doing for your supporters and folks that are interested in hearing about this, your fan club and everybody else, because we love the analysis, is an analogy. And that is Mein Kampf is to Hitler as Project 2025 is to Trump and make America great again, or make America Germany in 1933 again. It is absolutely a blueprint written by some of the lawyers, scientists, doctors, whatever. It's 920 pages. It's 4 separate sections. It's 30 chapters. Too long to read, but tons of people have talked about it. When it got discovered, I wrote an op-ed on it months ago. Suddenly, Trump tried to distance himself from it, indicating he had no idea about any of this. But of course, nearly, I think it's well over 24 of the folks that were in his administration are principal drafters of this. So, of course, it's absolutely part and parcel of the MAGA agenda. It, among other things, is trying to get rid of the FBI, the Department of Justice, the National Weather Service. Women don't get to have abortions. There'll be no teaching of critical race theory. It hates diversity, equity, and inclusion. Anything that appears to be good for us moving forward as a species, it is against. And the driver is Christian nationalism, not the kind of Christianity that many Americans or other folks in the world follow, but this idea of muscular, weaponized Christianity, which is you either accept our view of this or you don't deserve the right to be an American citizen. And we're not quite sure you even deserve the right to be alive. Our military is the vanguard of our constitutional rights. And the bottom line is, there's a great phrase in Latin that I now forget, but basically, who will guard the guards? And the guardians of our society is our military. And if our U.S. military is infiltrated and becomes inextricably intertwined with Christian nationalism, it's over. We have such tremendous prestige, power, and wealth associated with the U.S. military that this can't happen. If we're going to avoid what Margaret Atwood talked about in The Handmaid's Tale, Gilead, that version of a fundamentalist Christian nationalist entity. We were actually very pleased a number of years ago when the producers of that show on Hulu from the book reached out to us for help because they wanted to do an entire episode of what happens with the military in Gilead in that near future that's there, that dystopian future. I think it's on page 102 and 103 of Project 2025. It talks about, I'll just give you 2 examples, strengthening the rights of military chaplains to follow their mandate of their ministries in accordance with the basic tenets of their faith. It sounds great, but the problem is the Great Commission, one of the central aspects of fundamentalist Christianity. You can see it in Mark 16:15 and Matthew 28:19. It's one of the last things, Talia, that Jesus is supposed to have told his disciples, which is go out and make disciples of all nations. Every chaplain is an officer, which becomes a problem in and of itself. The moment you come out of a commissioning entity, whether it's the military academies or ROTC or OTS, officer training school, officer candidate school, or a direct report, if you come in as a O1, a second lieutenant, or an ensign in the Navy, at that moment, as the most junior officer, you outrank 90% of the military. Why? Because you're an officer. I understand that most Americans do not understand the difference between officers and enlisted, but I'm telling you, even the most junior officer has incredible power. So you outrank 90% already. Chaplains are officers. And it's our best sense that about somewhere about 84% of the chaplaincy in our military, and there are multiple thousands of them across the various branches, are evangelical, which by itself is okay, because evangelicals will still follow the time, place, and matter restrictions of our Constitution and the directives, instructions, and regulations of the Department of Defense. But when they go bad, they become fundamentalists, and they say, no, we are unrestricted in when we can carry and push forth the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's our best sense that about a third of that 84% of the chaplaincy are fundamentalist Christian nationalists. And keep in mind, I think Hitler had 7.9% in his National Socialist movement. Stalin only had about 2.8 or 2.9% of his movement, and look what they were able to do. Remember, chaplains, however, are not, they're staff officers like military doctors, like I was a judge advocate. They're not the commanders, but they have huge influence. And we still see this massive amount of Christian nationalism in the command chain. We literally see it every day around the clock here. And your military superior, I want to make it very clear, in the person that orders you around in the military, your boss, your commander, your immediate superior, the dynamic between you and that person is not remotely close to, say, your shift manager at Starbucks or KFC. There's a separate criminal code, Talia, in the military called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and insubordination is a felony. It's also a felony to have sexual intercourse with someone other than your spouse, adultery. It's also a felony if you're ordered to go to the base dentist at 1500 hours or 3 p.m. and you don't go. So if you're even being gently evangelized by your military superior, get the F out of my face, sir or ma'am, is not an option for you.